You know what's fascinating? Most people assume that if they just visualize a little harder, affirm a little more intensely, or meditate a little longer, eventually their reality will shift. You script your desires every morning. You repeat affirmations in the mirror. You try to stay in alignment, speak in high vibrations, tell yourself you trust the universe. You make new vision boards, listen to guided meditations, read every book on manifestation you can find. You consume course after course, follow guru after guru, practice technique after technique. Despite all this effort, despite all this genuine work, the same patterns keep showing up. The same kinds of relationships appear, just wearing different faces. The same financial cycles repeat, just with different numbers. The same inner oscillation between hope and quiet, despair, between believing it's finally working and suspecting you're fooling yourself. And you wonder why. You ask yourself late at night when the facade drops, what am I doing wrong? Haven't I done enough? Haven't I tried hard enough? Haven't I believed strongly enough? And here's where it gets interesting. You look around and see others manifesting seemingly effortlessly. Their lives shifting, expanding, transforming. While you're still here, still waiting, still hoping, still trying. The confusion deepens. The self-doubt creeps in. Maybe you're broken. Maybe you're the exception to the rule. Maybe this works for everyone except you. But well, now really, here's the thing you need to understand. The quantum field doesn't respond to effort. It doesn't respond to how badly you want something. It doesn't reward the number of hours you visualize, the intensity of your affirmations, or the amount of positive vibes you try to cultivate. It doesn't care how many courses you've bought, how many techniques, how spiritually sophisticated your language has become. The quantum field responds to one thing and one thing only: the signal you broadcast consistently, unconsciously beneath the surface when no one's looking, including yourself. The frequency that runs in the background while you sleep, while you scroll, while you interact with people, while you move through your day on autopilot. That signal, not the one you're trying to broadcast, the one you actually are broadcasting. And that signal, that unconscious frequency, is being emitted from a place you rarely look at, a place you've been conditioned not to look at, your subconscious programming, your nervous system's default settings, your body's memorized emotional state. It's not you. It's not your worth. It's not your soul. It's your frequency. And until you understand how frequency actually works, how the quantum field actually responds, you'll keep putting in tremendous effort with minimal results. You'll keep feeling like you're pushing a boulder uphill while others seem to glide downstream. You see, most people are operating from a profound misunderstanding about how manifestation actually works. They think it's about conscious intention, about willpower, about forcing a new reality into being through sheer mental effort. This belief feels true because your conscious mind is loud, visible, articulate. It's the part of you that reads books, makes plans, sets intentions. It's the narrator of your life story. So, naturally, you assume it's also the creator of your life experience. But here's what they fail to realize. What the self-help industry conveniently overlooks. You're not stuck because you're failing at manifestation. You're stuck because you haven't yet stopped vibrating like the version of yourself you've outgrown. You're trying to manifest from a new vision while broadcasting from an old identity. And the field doesn't care about your vision. It only registers your vibration. Think about it for a moment. Your subconscious mind, this vast underwater portion of your psyche, is designed to keep you safe. It's your survival mechanism, your autopilot, your pattern recognition system. But here's the paradox. Safe doesn't mean fulfilled. Safe doesn't mean happy. Safe doesn't even mean healthy. Safe means familiar. Safe means known. Safe means what you've survived before. So your nervous system, your body has memorized the emotional state of lack, of anxiety, of unworthiness, of disappointment. These aren't just thoughts you have occasionally. These are neural pathways that have become automatic, effortless, unconscious. You've practiced them thousands of times, tens of thousands of times. They're wired into your system. Now, your body literally is the subconscious mind, as the neuroscientists discovered. It's not a metaphor. Your tissues, your cells, your autonomic nervous system, they're running programs you installed years ago, maybe decades ago, maybe in childhood. And those programs, not your affirmations, are what the quantum field reads. So then imagine this. You wake up in the morning and you visualize abundance for 30 minutes. You feel gratitude. You write in your manifestation journal. You tell yourself, today is different. That's your conscious mind, maybe 5% of your operating system trying to create something new, beautiful, sincere, genuine. But for the remaining 23 hours and 30 minutes, what's your body actually doing? What's your nervous system actually broadcasting? It's tensing when the bills arrive in the mail. It's contracting when you see someone else's success on social media, that familiar pang of feeling behind. It's holding its breath when you check your bank account. It's bracing for rejection in conversations. It's playing small in opportunities to stay safe. It's rehearsing worst-case scenarios as a form of protection. It's scanning for threat, for scarcity, for proof that you're not enough yet. That's 95% of your system broadcasting the old signal, the familiar frequency, the memorized emotional state that feels like home even when it hurts. And the quantum field, this intelligent, responsive medium we're swimming in, it doesn't hear your 5%. It hears your 95. It responds to the dominant signal, the consistent vibration, the frequency that's running when you're not consciously trying to control it. You dig it. You're sending out a weak, inconsistent, contradictory signal. A little hope here, a lot of doubt there. A moment of faith in the morning, hours of worry in the afternoon, a vision of abundance, a body that contracts in scarcity. The field receives mixed messages, and when the signal is mixed, the response is mixed. When the signal is unclear, the manifestation is unclear. When the signal keeps switching between lack and abundance, between worthiness and shame, the field keeps reflecting that oscillation back to you. The quantum field isn't resisting your desires. It's not punishing you. It's not testing you. It's reflecting your identity. And your identity, your true energetic identity, isn't what you think about yourself when you're journaling or affirming or visualizing. Your identity is what your nervous system believes about you when you're not paying attention. It's the automatic response, the unconscious assumption, the baseline you return to when you're on autopilot. Consider this carefully. You can say abundance 100 times a day. You can script six-figure months. You can create elaborate vision boards. But if your body is still wired for scarcity, if your system still contracts at the thought of spending money, if you still hold your breath when you check your bank account, if you still feel that spike of anxiety when unexpected expenses arise, the field doesn't hear abundance. It hears lack. It hears fear. It hears the program that's running beneath your conscious declarations. Because your body, not your words, not your thoughts, not your intentions, your body is the broadcasting tower of your energy. Your nervous system is the transmitter. And whatever state your nervous system is in, most consistently, that's the signal the field receives most clearly. It's not personal. It's physics. It's mechanics. It's how the game actually works beneath all the spiritual language we dress it up in. But here's the paradox, and this is where most people get it completely backwards. The very moment you think you're stuck, the moment you feel that sensation of stagnation, that heavy feeling like you're going nowhere despite all your efforts, that's often the exact moment you are closest to a quantum shift. It's the moment right before the breakthrough, not the evidence that there won't be one. Most people don't realize this. They've been conditioned to interpret discomfort as a sign they're doing something wrong. They think if it were really working, if the universe were really responding, if they were really aligned, it would feel easier. It would feel smooth. It would feel like confirmation. So when it feels hard, when it feels like resistance, when it feels like they're moving through mud, they conclude they're off track. They abandon the process. They try a different technique. They start over with a new approach. They give up right before the old pattern would have finally collapsed. The thing is, and this is crucial, before any real transformation, there is almost always resistance. The old frequency, the one you've been running for years, the one that feels like home in your nervous system, it doesn't just dissolve quietly into the night. It fights back. It flares up. It asserts itself with renewed intensity. Your oldest patterns recur with unexpected force. Relationships that seemed resolved suddenly feel raw again, triggering in ways you thought you'd moved beyond. Fears you thought you had outgrown reappear louder, sharper, more convincing than before. Behaviors you thought you'd left behind reemerge, sometimes more compulsively than ever. This is not a failure. This isn't evidence that you've regressed. This isn't proof that your work isn't working. This is a flare-up. It's the last defense of a pattern that's beginning to dissolve. It's the old program realizing it's losing its grip and making one final stand to pull you back into the familiar loop. Imagine for a moment that you're standing at the edge of two realities. One is the familiar world you've known, the loop you've been repeating for years, the patterns that feel like you even though they hurt you. The other is the frequency you're calling in, the reality that's trying to organize itself around your new signal, the life that's waiting for you to stabilize your vibration long enough for it to materialize. Right now, in this moment, in this liminal space, between who you've been and who you're becoming, you're stretched between two versions of yourself. It's like standing with one foot in each world, and your body, your nervous system, your subconscious programming, they don't like this. They interpret this as danger, as instability, as threat to survival. So your body will resist. You might feel fatigue that seems to come from nowhere, a heaviness that sleep doesn't cure. You might feel tension in your shoulders, your jaw, your chest, as if your entire system is bracing against something. You might feel anxiety without clear cause, restlessness without clear direction. You might find yourself emotionally volatile, overreacting to small things, crying or raging about situations that wouldn't normally affect you this intensely. You might find yourself withdrawing from people, who used to feel safe or clinging to people you know aren't good for you. This internal tug-of-war, this discomfort, this chaos, it's uncomfortable. It's destabilizing. It can feel like you're losing your mind, like you're getting worse instead of better. But it's also a sign, a very specific sign that you are exactly where you need to be. You're in the crucible. You're in the transformation. You're in the space where the old is dying and the new hasn't fully been born yet. The discomfort isn't evidence that you're doing it wrong. On the contrary, it's evidence that you are disrupting the loop. You're interrupting the pattern. You're no longer unconsciously reinforcing the old frequency. And the old frequency, the old identity, the old programming, it's fighting to survive. The curious thing about quantum shifts, and this is where the whole game changes, is that they don't happen when you force a new reality, but when you stop reacting to the old one. They happen when you can observe the pattern without collapsing into it, without becoming it, without obeying it, like you've always done. When you can feel the contraction in your body, that familiar tightening, that old anxiety, that memorized fear, and breathe through it instead of acting from it. When you can notice the old narrative running through your mind, that voice that says you're not enough, it's not working, you're fooling yourself, and you can hear it without believing it. This witnessing, this conscious observation without identification, this is perhaps the most challenging part of the process, because everything in your conditioning, everything in the culture you grew up in, everything you've been taught about how to solve problems tells you to push harder, to do more, to fix yourself, to figure it out, to make it happen. But creation, real quantum creation, doesn't happen through force. It happens through frequency. And frequency isn't something you create through effort. It's something you tune into by removing the static, the interference, the old signal that's been broadcasting automatically. You see that future you want, that reality you're trying to manifest, it already exists in the quantum field, not as a distant possibility floating somewhere in the ether, not as a reward you'll receive if you're good enough, but as a present reality operating at a different frequency right now. It's here. It exists. You just can't perceive it yet because you're not vibrating at the frequency where it lives. You don't need to create it. You need to become coherent with it. And coherence, this is key. Coherence doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you have to feel abundant every single moment. It doesn't mean you never doubt, never worry, never contract. Coherence means consistency. It means the dominant signal, the baseline you return to most often, is aligned with what you're calling in. 5 genuine seconds of embodying your new self. 5 seconds of actually being in that frequency where your body feels it, where your nervous system recognizes it as real. That's more powerful than 5 hours of mentally trying to convince yourself it's possible. Because the field doesn't respond to mental effort. It responds to energetic embodiment. It responds to what you are, not what you're trying to be. Let's make this more practical. How do you actually shift your frequency? How do you stop looping and start manifesting from a new baseline? Because all of this understanding is beautiful, but if it stays theoretical, it's useless. You need practices. You need a way to work with your nervous system, your body, your subconscious programming, not as another thing to perfect, but as a way to return home to coherence again and again. The first practice is somatic awareness. This is fundamental. You need to start paying attention to your body as the subconscious mind, not as a concept, but as a lived practice throughout your day. Check in. Where are you holding tension right now? What emotion is running in the background? Is your breath shallow and high in your chest? Is your jaw clenched? Is your chest tight? Are your shoulders up by your ears? Don't judge it when you notice it. This is crucial. Don't make it another thing you're doing wrong. Just observe it. Get curious about it. Oh, interesting. My body is contracting right now. Oh, I'm holding my breath. Oh, there's that familiar anxiety in my stomach. Because the moment you become aware of the pattern, consciously aware without judgment, you interrupt it. You create a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap, choice exists. Awareness itself is the beginning of change. Not awareness that judges, not awareness that tries to fix, just awareness that sees. Second, and this is what most people skip entirely, practice regulation before manifestation. This is where the whole process breaks down for most people. They're anxious, stressed, running on cortisol and adrenaline. Their nervous system is in fight or flight mode, and they wonder why the quantum field keeps delivering more chaos, more problems, more evidence that they're not safe. Your nervous system is the tuning fork. It's the instrument through which your frequency broadcasts. If it's out of tune, if it's dysregulated, if it's stuck in survival mode, your signal is distorted, no matter how positive your thoughts are. So before you visualize, before you affirm, before you try to manifest anything, regulate. Come back to baseline. Come back to safety in your body. Breathe deeply. Not just once or twice, but until you feel a shift. Breathe into your belly slow and full, letting your exhale be longer than your inhale. This signals to your nervous system that you're safe, that there's no threat, that it can relax its guard. Move your body, shake, stretch, walk, dance. Let the old energy, the stress, the contraction discharge through movement. Don't think your way out of dysregulation. Move your way out. Nervous system regulation happens through the body, not the mind. Create space for the new frequency to emerge by clearing out the old charge first. You can't tune into abundance when your body is screaming scarcity. You can't embody confidence when your nervous system is flooded with threat. Regulation first, then manifestation. Third, and this might be the most important one, embody the identity, not the outcome. Stop asking yourself, how do I get the relationship? How do I get the money? How do I get the success? That question keeps you in the frequency of not having it, of needing it, of lacking it. Instead, ask a different question. Who is the version of me that already has this? Not as a fantasy, as a frequency, as a way of being. How does that version of you move through the world? How do they walk? How do they speak? How do they respond when challenges arise? What do they believe about themselves that you don't believe about yourself yet? What's their baseline emotional state? What's the quality of their nervous system? Are they contracted or expansive? Anxious or grounded? Desperate or magnetizing? And then for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 60 seconds, multiple times throughout your day, become that person. Not think about being that person, not visualize being that person. Be that person. Feel it in your body. Let your posture change. Let your breath change. Let the way you hold yourself in space change. Let your nervous system memorize that state, that frequency, that identity. The more you do this, the more you practice being rather than wanting, the more natural it becomes. The new frequency stops feeling like a costume you're putting on for manifestation practice and starts feeling like who you actually are, like your natural state, like home. And when that happens, when the new identity becomes more familiar than the old one, the quantum field has no choice but to mirror it back, because the field doesn't argue with who you are. It simply reflects it. Fourth, and this is where most people sabotage themselves completely, release attachment to the timeline. Let go of when. This is brutal because we're conditioned to expect immediate results. We live in a culture of instant gratification, of same-day delivery, of on-demand everything. We've been trained to believe that if something is working, we should see proof quickly. And if we don't see proof, it must not be working. So people do the work for a week, maybe a month if they're patient, and then demand proof from the universe. Show me it's working. Give me a sign. Prove to me I'm not wasting my time. They need to see results now. Visible, tangible results, or they'll conclude it's not working, either give up entirely or jump to the next technique, the next guru, the next promise of a shortcut. But here's what's actually happening. The shift happens first in the invisible and only later in the visible. The quantum field is already responding. The new reality is already organizing itself around your new signal. Opportunities are already rearranging themselves. Connections are already being made. Circumstances are already shifting, but these things take time to move from the energetic realm into physical form, from frequency into matter. If you collapse into doubt because you don't see it yet, if you decide it's not working because the evidence hasn't appeared on your timeline, you just sent a much stronger signal of lack, of impatience, of distrust, and the field, always responsive, always mirroring, reflects that signal back instead of the abundance you were beginning to align with. Trust the process. Not blindly, like some naive hope that if you just believe hard enough, everything will magically appear, but experientially. Trust based on what you're actually noticing. Because the shift is happening, you just have to learn to see it in its early stages rather than waiting for the final dramatic reveal. Notice the subtle shifts. The way certain things that used to trigger you intensely don't anymore. The way you respond to challenges differently, more calmly, more grounded. The way opportunities start appearing that you would have missed before because you weren't vibrating at the frequency where they exist. The way people treat you differently, reflecting back your new energy, the synchronicities, the ease, the flow, the things that just work out without force. These are breadcrumbs. They're not the full manifestation yet, but they're the field showing you it's listening, it's responding. It's already mirroring your new frequency back to you in small ways. And if you acknowledge these, if you appreciate these, if you let these small confirmations build your trust, you strengthen the signal, you stabilize the new frequency, and the bigger manifestations follow naturally. And now here you are. You've been shown the loop, the mechanism that keeps you repeating the same reality. You've been shown how the quantum field actually works, how it responds, not to your wishes, but to your vibration. You've been shown the signs that you're shifting, the resistance that appears right before breakthrough, and the practices that stabilize the shift. The only question left is this: will you stay in the old frequency because it's familiar, because it feels safe even though it hurts? Or will you choose the discomfort of expansion, the uncertainty of being between who you were and who you're becoming? You are not powerless in this process. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the pattern, and you are the one who can change it. You've been creating unconsciously from old programming, but now you can create consciously from chosen frequency. The only question that matters is which signal are you reinforcing? Which frequency are you returning to most often? The old one that feels familiar or the new one that feels like possibility? If you're feeling this, if something in you is recognizing that you are in the midst of a shift right now, I want you to do something. Comment below. I'm ready to shift, not just as a statement, but as a declaration to speak from your new self, not your old one, to tell the quantum field that you are no longer available for the loop. Say it out loud if you can. Let your voice carry the frequency of the version of you that already knows this is possible. And now we're almost there. In this final section, we're going deeper into stabilizing this new frequency so it becomes your default, not just a peak experience you visit occasionally. The most beautiful part about this whole process, you don't have to do this perfectly, only consistently. You don't have to feel the new frequency every second of every day. You just need to return to it more often than you return to the old one. And over time, the balance tips, the new becomes familiar, the old becomes foreign, and one day you wake up and realize you're not trying to shift anymore. You've already shifted. So, how do you shift? You start with the body. You regulate the nervous system first. You embody the identity rather than chasing the outcome. You release the timeline and trust the subtle signs. You stay in the discomfort of the liminal space until the new frequency stabilizes. You observe the old patterns when they arise without collapsing into them. You choose coherence over comfort. You choose presence over proof, and the field responds always. Because the quantum field isn't personal, it's a mirror. It reflects the frequency you emit most consistently, not the one you want to emit, not the one you're trying to emit, the one you actually are. Now, really think about this. If you've been repeating the same reality for years, it's because you've been repeating the same frequency for years. The moment you stop vibrating like the person who has that problem and start vibrating like the person who's already moved beyond it, the reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new signal. This isn't magic. This is quantum mechanics applied to consciousness. The observer affects the observed. Your state of being collapses the quantum field into form, and that state of being isn't intellectual. It's something you feel, embody, become in your nervous system. Here's the shift. You stop trying to get something and you start being someone. You stop chasing the outcome and you start inhabiting the identity. You stop forcing the future and you start tuning into the frequency of the future that already exists. And when you do that consistently, not as a mental exercise, but as a somatic reality, the loop breaks, the pattern dissolves, the old reality loses its grip, and the new one starts to materialize in ways that feel almost magical, but are actually just the natural consequence of coherence. If this resonates, if you're ready to stop looping and start living from your new frequency, then subscribe. Not just to keep watching videos, but to stay connected to a space that supports your evolution. Because this isn't casual content, this is a frequency. And the more you expose yourself to it, the more your nervous system starts to resonate with it. You're recalibrating your nervous system. You're training your body to hold a different baseline. The choice you make here determines whether you continue looping or whether you shift. No one else can Make that choice. Only you, because you are the one broadcasting the signal. You are the one creating your reality. So then, who are you choosing to be right now? The version of you stuck in the loop, waiting for proof, demanding guarantees, or the version of you that's already shifted, that already embodies the frequency of the reality you're manifesting? Both exist. Both are available. And the one you choose, the one you consistently return to, is the one the field will mirror back. You dig. The shift isn't out there. It's in here, in your nervous system, in this present moment. It's not in the future. It's now. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you become. And the moment you stop waiting for permission, for proof, for perfect conditions, and you just become it, everything changes. This is the quantum shift, a reality. You step into the moment. You stop vibrating like the person you used to be and start vibrating like the person you already are, in the field of infinite possibilities. The field is listening. It's always listening. The question is never whether it works. The question is only what signal you're sending.